Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Alex with Control Analytics, and I'm going to talk to you today about if you should learn Power BI in 2023. Now, before we go forward, we should actually talk about what is Power BI. Now, a lot of people know Power BI just for the data visualization, and it's really good at that. It creates dashboards, graphs, whatever you need it. But a lot of people gloss over the fact that it's a fantastic connector. It is really good at connecting to multiple data sources, whether it be a database, an Excel sheet, SharePoint files, whatever you need. It's actually really, really good at that. And a lot of people don't know enough about that. It's also very accessible. You don't need to know any kind of programming language going in or be some kind of Excel wizard to be able to do a lot with Power BI. Let me tell you a little bit more about the actual history of Power BI. It started out in 2013. It was originally released by Microsoft as an add-in for Excel. It was built in with Power Query. If you know what that is, then that was a precursor for Power BI. From those humble beginnings, Microsoft continued to develop it into its own software, and it's a fantastic tool now. Now, in the future, Microsoft has continued to develop it by tying it in with Microsoft Fabric. Now, that ties in everything from data warehousing to data science to AI and machine learning, and has made it very clear that it is an incredibly valuable tool going forward. Now, I want to be realistic about Power BI. I've been using it for quite a few years at this point, so I'm just going to share some of the pros and cons that I've noticed through my years of using it. I found that it's really user-friendly. I've been able to train a lot of people up very quickly on this. Once you get going, it is really, really powerful and doesn't require that much. Power BI has a huge range of integrations. I mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's seriously overwhelming how many things it can connect to and has become such a useful tool for that. There's a lot of visuals baked in, everything from maps to charts to even basic tables if that's what you need. It's interactive, so your users, once you build the report, can sort, filter, and mess around with that data. It is very, very helpful. I cannot tell you how many times executives have come to me asking for a summary that they can drill into, and Power BI has become more than the perfect tool for that. Applied Steps is one of my favorite things about Power BI. I have to do a lot of ETL, which is extract, transform, and load data. So say you have a really messy Excel, and every single time you export this report or this Excel, you have to rename the column. It's a big pain in the butt. I'm fairly lazy when it comes to stuff like that. So I love Power BI because I do it once, and every time it refreshes that data set, it applies that step over and over and over again, just like a macro if you're used to that in Excel. It's cloud-based, meaning you don't need a server or anything fancy to get it started. It's actually really easy for a lot of users to get into it. Plus, Power BI does work pretty decently on mobile. So if you want a report or dashboard that you can take on the go, Microsoft has actually built out a lot on the mobile side. Power BI can be very intimidating at first, especially if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what the name of things are. There's a lot being thrown at you at first, but once you get started, I promise it's going to start making sense. While Power BI has a lot of integrations, some of those integrations can be pretty slow to connect and refresh data from. An example of this would be, in the past, I had to connect to a SharePoint on-premises server. Now, the built-in integration to that from Power BI was really slow, and even though it was a small data set, it took so long to refresh. I want to caveat that with there are workarounds for some of these integrations, but they can be tedious and overwhelming, especially if you're brand new. The other thing about Power BI is at a large scale for some big businesses, it can become pretty costly. Usually Microsoft charges at a per user basis. There are a lot of things included with things like O365 packages that a lot of businesses buy. But if you're a big corporation and you need a lot of people to be able to access Power BI and do all the things that it can do, it can start to add up really quick. Because it's cloud-based, you'll notice that there's quite the limited offline functionality. You won't be able to refresh your data sources or do a lot of accessing of data offline. For some people, that can be a downside, so I wanted to make sure that that's included here so you guys know everything. So the big question, should you learn Power BI? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It depends. Are you transforming the same type of data over and over again? Are you tired of combining different reports manually? Do you have to run reports on two different systems and then do a ton of VLOOKUPs in Excel? Do you wish you could see your data differently? You find that a lot of the visualizations in Excel or whatever other platforms you're using to be pretty lackluster and not actually helpful? Then Power BI probably could be really powerful for you. It really depends on your situation. Well, where should you learn Power BI? I would say YouTube. You're on it right now, and it's obviously a great resource for learning. There are 3 fantastic channels that I would absolutely recommend. One is Leela Garani. She has fantastic design tips that I desperately needed to learn, especially when I first got into Power BI. But she has a lot of great fundamentals that she covers as well. Kevin Stratford is great for beginners. If you don't know where to start, he has all-encompassing videos that I highly recommend you check out. Last but not least, Guy in a Cube. He definitely stays on top of all the current events and everything going on. So especially with Microsoft Fabric and all the things that ChatGPT is integrating with that, Guy in a Cube is a fantastic resource for that. Speaking of ChatGPT, it's actually a really good resource for beginners who are trying to figure out the very basics and you don't necessarily know what to ask. Another option would be me. I would love to help you, whether it be over Zoom, Teams, an individual, a business unit. I would love to teach you the basics of Power BI in under an hour for free. Just give me a contact at info@ControlAnalytics. I hope this helps you decide whether or not you should learn Power BI. And if so, welcome to the team. Have a good one.